everybody, and welcome back to Careers in a Crunch. I'm Arti, and today I'm joined by Anita Singhal. I'm super excited to have her on my podcast and hear about her professional journey. So I want to just take a second to thank you so much for being here and for allowing me to interview you. I'm really looking forward to it.
Me too.
Okay, perfect. So, yeah, I guess we could just dive right into some questions. So, what did you major in, and how did that shape your career, if it did at all?
I majored in allied health sciences was my bachelor's degree. So I applied into a master's physical therapy program straight from high school. It required me to keep my GPA at a certain level throughout my undergraduate so that I could enter the graduate program. Um, into my second year, my advisor told me that I could also double major in biochem, given the classes were overlapping quite a bit. And so I ended up with a double major in biochem and in allied health sciences.
That's
And
super
then I went,
interesting.
yeah, and then I went straight into the master's program for physical therapy. So
Yeah.
it was a 5.5 year journey that led me to physical therapy.
That's really great, and that's super interesting how you had like the biochem, sort of the science part, but you kind of sort of knew a little bit that you wanted to do physical therapy and kind of um, ended up there. And I think that's really great.
Mhm.
What inspired you to pursue a career as a physical therapist?
Um, I think there was a lot of connecting the dots. So uh, I was very good generally in the biology, math, STEM area, as it's now called. And my I had a few doctors in the family and kind of knew that I didn't want to pursue medicine. Um, but then what else is there? I was definitely a people person. I didn't want to be in a office or I wasn't sure about a lab environment, but I definitely didn't want to be in a cubicle in an office. That wasn't me. I had even now I have I like to walk around. I can't sit for hours and hours. That's just me. So I was lucky enough to be able to connect those dots as I went along. I volunteered a little bit in high school at a nursing home. And then even during my college, I volunteered in hospitals. And then as I went along, it became quite obvious that I really enjoyed working with people, listening to their stories, trying to figure out what was wrong, and then trying to motivate them to do their exercises and see the rehab process and see them get better. And it really excited me. So I knew I was on the right path. So it happened gradually, I would say, from the time I was in high school to by the time I graduated.
Yeah, I think it's really great how you were sort of able to use what interested you and use like things about you, like how you said you kind of are a people person and like to interact with people, how you were able to use all that and kind of found a career that also incorporates a lot of those different things. And I think that's really great. And yeah, just kind of how you also like you said you kind of figured out you did like volunteering at yeah, and I think
Clinics
that
and hospitals, yeah.
yeah, at hospitals and things like that. So kind of like you said, it connected the dots, and that's like so cool.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I even had a job at a lab, and that's what I remember figuring out that I didn't want to do lab work. Wasn't a like a heavy lab research type of person. But now we've realized that research isn't, you do research in every area. Even in therapy, we did research on athletes and things as such in my master's program. So research is everywhere, but I didn't want to do the clinical lab kind of biochemistry kind of research. So that was a career path that I chose, like because of my exposure through a job during college. I realized that was not me. I didn't want to be in a lab setting. I wanted to be with people, lots of people, um, moving around, doing things. So,
Yeah, I think it shows how it's important to sort of try a lot of different things, because like you said, that exposure can help you figure out what it is you want to do and kind of eliminate the things that you don't want to do. So I think it's really cool how you kind of were able to try so many different things, like, and then you found what really interested you.
True, true.
Um, what kinds of patients do you work with most often, and what challenges or goals do they usually have?
So I have over the years gotten into more orthopedic, which means more musculoskeletal injuries with more of a specialization in spine. So I go more, but I do see because of the nature of the job, it's an outpatient clinic. We see a lot of everything from neck sprains, shoulder injuries, back pain, knee replacements, or any kind of knee injuries, ACLs, meniscus tears in the knees, ankle sprains. So these are some of the most common things that we see in the US or generally in the world. Back pain is the number one diagnosis in general. There's a lot under back pain specific diagnosis, but that generally is the most popular diagnosis that walks in to the outpatient clinic. Challenges, I mean, you can imagine pain of any kind challenges people. It changes a person when you're in pain. You might see a completely different person uh, than the normal person that they are. So the challenges are usually trying to, while they're in that kind of acute pain or a place where they're unhappy and not quite seeing the end result, you kind of have to make them see that it will get better and they will be getting back to, hopefully the goal is always to get them back to where they were before the injury or before the pain. But depending on what has happened, telling them that this will be the best possible outcome and we'll get there.
Hmm. Yeah, I think it's really interesting how there's such like a variety of different people that you see with different kinds of like maybe goals in mind and different injuries and pains and things like that. But I also think it's like everybody kind of has a very similar goal in the sense like you were saying, like they want to get back to how they were before. And I think obviously, right, you're there to help, and I think it's really great. I think it's like a very satisfying career, I think, to be able to see your patient kind of regain their strength and things like that.
It is, it is. It's very real time. Like you see people week to week, especially post surgery or post acute injury. You see how the body and the mind kind of over time, um, within 6 to 8 weeks, generally, you see a drastic difference in most people.
Yeah, that's great. Um, what do you find most meaningful about helping your patients recover and regain strength?
Um, Most meaningful is that I have a lot of faith in the human body. And the human body is amazing. It it really has the power to heal itself in a lot of ways. So I think having faith in your body and having confidence in yourself, uh, I've seen people overcome a lot of things. I've seen people coming off of ventilators and, big motor vehicle accidents, having broken 10, 15 bones and being able to go back to a life, like a regular life, being able to go back to being a student, being able to go back to being a husband, a wife, or a father, a mother, going back to work as construction workers. So the most meaningful for me in all that is seeing people going through that journey and having the strength to go through that journey and get there.
Yeah, I that's amazing, and I think injuries and things like that is something that can take such a toll on someone's like body and someone's personal life, I think. And right, as a physical therapist, I think it's so great that you get to kind of watch their journey to recovery and you kind of get to help them along the way. And you know that like they're kind of getting closer every step of the way, and that in the end, it's sort of like it's amazing to see how they kind of came back to their like original state and they're kind of like happier and just like a lot better than they were.
Yes, yes. And yeah, we are kind of the bridge. We're the bridge from when they are done with like their medical acute treatment, the medicines and the surgery or whatever, to like being able to push themselves to get to the point. So it's nice for them, I think, to have physical therapy to guide them, to have somebody for like, we see them 2 to 3 times a week typically. It's for about 2 months, 3 months, depending on the injury. And so I think for for us, it's nice to for as therapists, it's nice to see them progress, but as I think human beings, it's also nice when someone says, "Hey, you're injured. Don't worry, you don't have to do this alone. I will help you figure out week to week what you need to do next to get there. And if we hit a bump in the road, I can help you figure that out."
Yeah, I think there's also this like connection that you can build with your patients, and I think that kind of takes it to like sort of the next level in terms of like meaningfulness because you're not only seeing like a patient, but now somebody that you sort of built sort of a relationship with when you watch them grow and recover, and obviously that's so great.
Yes, for sure.
Um, is there something that you wish you knew before you entered this field?
Um, the one piece that you possibly don't get in your schooling is the finance piece and the insurance piece. So at the end of the day, healthcare is a business. Most people go into healthcare being a doctor, being a nurse, being a physical therapist. You go in generally with the thought that you're going to help people get better. That's the motivating factor for people. Um, you and that is majority of your job, but also a lot of the back end of it is the stuff you have to document. You have to write down every single thing that you do, um, and it in a certain way, so that insurance can be billed, they can reimburse the money, and so that the clinic can stay open and money is generated on the back end. And as a provider, you are the main person billing and sending out that bill, so you're supporting the electricity, the water, the person who is making the appointments at the front desk, because none of those people are billing anything. So you're the person who's actually billing and getting the money in the door. So at the back end, learning the business end of things would be a great thing, I think, for healthcare workers to come out with a little bit more, especially therapists. I don't know if the other professions get anything on this, but for physical therapy, you don't really get anything on the insurance billing piece of it. You do get the piece about documenting and things as such, how to write things down, but you don't get how what you've written translates into money.
Yeah, I think that's something that I think a lot of, especially students, don't really think about kind of when they're looking for a career. You sort of think about what interests you, and obviously it's really important to find out what works for you. But like you said, this sort of like financial aspect of every single job, especially like healthcare, like you said, it's a business. I think that's something that a lot of people sort of almost look past when they're thinking about what they want to be and when they're thinking about like what careers interest them and are for them. But I think like you said, like for me personally, I sort of didn't even like I don't really think about this sort of like financial aspect to any career that I think about. I sort of just think about the career aside from that. But I think it's really important, like you said, to sort of understand and learn that because that's really like also like the basis of whatever the job is. So yeah.
Yeah, you're working, I mean, generally you're working to make people better, and that's your main view. But at the same time, people also, it's a job, right? Like you're paying, you're feeding your family, you want to make money. So, um, and you do get, I mean, just like any other career, you're gonna sit down with your clinic head or the boss, and there's a certain amount of money. They're gonna look at how you perform. There's a performance review, and in that performance review, it's hard for them. These human um, achievements are hard to quantify. Like you can say, oh, you know. So now you have surveys and things that we send out to patients saying, how much better do you think you got? Did you get 90% better, 100% better? And these things, that's how we are judged. I mean, that's how we are um, evaluated at the end of the year. Um, oh, this many people felt 90% better. This many reviews were written. um, this is how you did. This is how many patients you saw versus this is how many patients you saw. So if you're generating that, so the numbers are very important to understand. Even early, the earlier you understand them, the happier you will be, and the better therapist you can be.
Yeah, I think like you were saying, there's sort of like two sides to almost like any job, and specifically for yours, it's like on that one side, it's like helping your patients and being there for them and carrying them through this journey. But on the other side, it's right, kind of like you said about the numbers and that it is a job at the end of the day. So you kind of need to make sure that all like financial money, things like that, is also really important. Um, because that's how you're going to live your life through the income that you're getting from the job. So I think, like you said, it's really important to obviously understand that there's two sides to almost any job, pretty much.
True. True.
What are some challenges you face in your job and how do you handle them?
Some of the challenges relate back to what we were just talking about. So in healthcare, there's a lot of demand. Um, Almost every physical therapy clinic is packed nowadays with the people are becoming more active, people are living longer, and we're doing more technologically advanced surgeries. So people are recovering faster, they want to get back to things faster. So all this has added a extra layer of um, time management per se. Um, Aspect to the whole thing because a lot of clinics are trying to see as many patients as they can, like we talked about the financial side, because that makes sense. You need to see a certain number of patients to make a certain amount of money. Each insurance company does a little bit different aspect of reimbursement, which is like when you bill someone for their services, depending on your insurance will pay X amount or Y amount. So there's a lot of juggling of all these things in the background in your head while you're seeing a lot of patients with a lot of different challenges. And then you have to constantly come back to what does this patient need? How much time do they need? So initially, for example, if someone comes in right after surgery, they need require a lot of care. You want to give them heat, you want to give them ice, you want to make sure that they're getting their exercises right at the beginning. And then as they get towards the end, they're a lot more independent. They can come into the clinic, they can start on a bicycle, they can start warming up on their own. They can, start some of their stretching. You can be watching them and they're doing things. But you're not heating them and icing them and making sure that their pain level is low because they've kind of gotten past that stage. Um, so, but managing all of that and having that while, when you see anywhere from physical therapy clinics will expect you to see 8 to 10 patients a day, and some will see 15, 13 to 15. So just those are the challenges in healthcare right now. I think it's just managing the financial aspect, the time aspect, and the quality of care that you are giving each person is the biggest challenge.
Yeah, I think those are definitely some really hard things that um that obviously it's might deal with in your day-to-day life. Like you were saying, managing a lot of patients, kind of, and managing patients with all different needs based off their injury and their pain, and then also thinking about everything else. So, kind of like you were saying, you not only have to think about right your patient, but you also have all these other things in your mind that you also are thinking about. So, those definitely sound like um, some hard things, but yeah, I think the way that you deal with them is great.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think over time you figure these things out, and if you have a good mentor, a good either a clinical supervisor or mentor outside of your clinic or your hospital setting, it is very helpful. And you learn a lot of this on the job. Within a year or two, you kind of figure out your rhythm, the yeah, the patients that are walking in, the insurance, the paperwork. So it takes a little time, um but you're also having a lot of fun. You're doing what you love, and you're seeing, like I said, all these people getting better, and people are amazing when they come in and they're in pain and they're grouchy and unhappy, to when they are better and they can do things, they're so happy. And you can see that life changing. They're doing things, they want to do things. And yeah, and you hear all kinds of stories. I've had like 85-year-olds who came in with a shoulder injury, and they'll say, uh, I'll say something like, "Oh, how did you break your shoulder?" "Oh, I went whitewater rafting with my grandchildren." And it's just it's like mind blowing. Like, you're 80 something and you went whitewater rafting with your grandchildren. That's how you broke your shoulder. And they're like, yeah, yeah, I want to do it again next year.
Oh, that's a great.
so
That's great.
so that just makes your day, and you're like, all right, we can do that.
Yeah, that's great. And like you said, you're kind of like helping people with this like sort of like turning point um between when they're like you said very unhappy and upset with their injury and it's just really impacting them to when they kind of feel all this like so much freedom and they're able to like do the things that they were able to do before and you know that you were there to help them along the way and that's really great.
Yes, yes. And you learn a lot from people. You learn from them as well as they are learning from you. You learn, like I said, lives that people lead are so varied and so colorful. It's very cool to see all of that.
Yeah, definitely. Going into advice, if you could go back and give your high school self one piece of advice, what would it be?
Um, I would say explore, explore. I mean, now I think the world is very different. If I was a high schooler now, I think I didn't have the internet. So I didn't have those resources. I think I would have done a lot more research. I would have looked at a lot more things, explored a lot more careers. There are AI related careers, how, you can, I think technology can definitely help healthcare a lot. And I feel very excited that there are all these careers that are trying to develop these technologies that will help all these challenges that I was talking about. Um, and who knows, there would have been a different career for that, or something in that, or genetics, or so many more careers have popped up now that, to me, as a person now, look so interesting. I don't know if I would have explored them as a high schooler, but I think if they were there, maybe I would have. Uh, so yeah, as advice to myself in high school, looking back, I would not tie myself down to something. If you're interested in something, yes, pursue it, but make sure you get out in the real world and try different things. Talk to people like you are, like you're interviewing people. That is an amazing thing. I think more if kids listen to these interviews, I think they will get a lot of knowledge. But also reach out to people in the industry, try to get volunteer positions, internship positions, talk to people. Um, and kind of explore and really also have a conversation with your deeper self as to who you are. Um, are you a people person? Are you a money driven person? Are you a beauty industry driven person, right? Like, who are you and what makes you happy? What makes you unhappy? I think, and then put that together, like connect those dots.
Yeah, I think that's a really great piece of advice, like you were saying, to use the resources around you. Right, there's so much like technology right now and these days that it's, I think you like you were saying, it's really important for I guess people in sort of this time to utilize it and kind of get the most out of this because it can really help you figure out what you want to do and figure out your path and your career. Like you're saying, there's so many um right, the internet has everything. You can like look for like you were saying, internships and things like that, things that can help you figure out and kind of get exposed to different kinds of careers because right at the end of the day you obviously want to figure out what's best for you, but there's right now there's so many ways you can do that. So like you were saying, that's a really great piece of advice. And yeah, my last question is, what advice would you give to high school students who are still unsure about what they want to do?
Um, like I said, I think use the resources around you, whatever you have available, um, whether it's through internet research or talking to the adults in the room that, talking to the adults that are you have access to. Um, if you have access to walking into places even to see, don't be afraid. I think most places and most people are very open when you ask them about their journeys and their careers. So if you're curious, be honest and be curious and try to explore. Um, don't put a lot of pressure on yourself. It's a long journey to figure out what you want to do. If you have a few interests, follow them and see where they lead you. That would be my advice. And I think really, again, the other piece is at this point, just trying to be honest with yourself as you go through your teenage years. High school, you're still in your teenage years. You're still trying. There's a lot that's going to change by the time you become 20, 25 is when you're actually fully mature, ready to get into the world. So take your time to reflect on who you are, what you enjoy. Do you enjoy people? Do you enjoy, like I said, a desk job or walking around? Are you more an active person? Are you more introvert, extrovert, a combination? Just basics, and then try to see what careers there are out there, um, and just even actually more than a career, try to see what there is to learn. Maybe that is the right word that you're looking for when you're in high school. What knowledge can I gain that leads, like, stimulates my brain, that gets me excited? Like, is it when people are talking about technology that excites me? When people are talking about sports that excites me? When people are talking about uh, a TV show, a magazine? Like, what is it that excites my brain? Like, where is it that I like to uh, be? Um,
Hmm.
because that will lead you to a happy place. That will lead you to a good place.
Yeah, I think that is such great advice that I think anyone would benefit from hearing. And like you were saying, I think it's really important to sort of figure out what it is that interests you. And like you said, it doesn't really have to be a specific career per se, but more like you were saying, what just in general, like things that excite you, sports, TV, this, that, all, but trying to figure that out. And like you were saying, to be curious because, right, when you're curious, that kind of gives you a drive to do things. And it kind of, if you can figure out your passion, I think that's really great. But also understanding that I hear this from a lot of the people that I talk to that, right, when you're in high school, there's so much more ahead of you that you don't have to figure out what you want to do when you're in high school, but it's such a long and like windy and path filled with turns that you don't really exactly have to know what you want to do, but you can kind of have all these different like points that help you figure out what you're going to end up doing in life.
Yes, yes, yes. Nothing is so irreversible where you are right now in high school that anything drastic outcome is going to happen. Like any decision you make, if you go down that path for like a couple of minutes and say, hey, this is not what I thought it was, I want to go on the other path, this is the time to do it.
Mhm.
So do it. Like don't say this is my path. If you are that person who says, oh yeah, this is my path, I'm gonna go down it. And I was that person. I mean, I'm saying, look, this was my path, I went down it, but I did explore along the way, and it just gave me more confidence that yes, this is my path. But don't stop being curious, don't stop learning. Then you can learn other things. Even if this is your main passion and you want to keep something else on the back burner, do it. Do it. don't
Mhm.
don't have to make choices right now.
Yeah. I agree 100%. And I want to thank you so much for being here. I learned so much and I know that everybody who watches is also going to learn so much. So, thank you for talking and sharing your journey.
Sure, you're welcome. And if anybody's interested in physical therapy and has more questions, feel free to reach out. And thank you for doing this. It's very, very good.
Thank you. Have a great day. Thank you so much.
You too. Bye.
That's it for this episode of Careers in a Crunch. If you found today's conversation helpful and informative, be sure to share it with a friend or family member. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an interview. Thanks. Bye.